All right. Welcome, everyone. This is our final interview today. Um, I've been online all day doing interviews with our amazing authors. I was just saying we're getting loopier as the day goes on. Our amazing authors from Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic. And I actually got my books this morning, literally 2 minutes before the first interview. So it was all like perfect timing. So this is a book about unwrapping your special gifts that you have deep inside of you. And the women who wrote in this book shared amazing stories about how something triggered them to go down a path that was maybe unexpected, or how something, challenged them in such a huge way, but then they ended up rising like a phoenix from the ashes. And so I want to introduce another author to you today. This is Maryann Udel, and she is one of the authors of Unleashing. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she does.
Thank you, Corey. I'm so excited. And I think being on the West Coast, it's still morning for me, but I know you've been doing this since bright and early Pacific time and your time too. The I'm a grief coach. The name of my company is called Sheltering Tree, and I started all of this just a relatively short time ago in the scope of things. It was not until 2015 that I actually began coaching and being able to help people in a way that I wasn't able to be helped is why I do what I do. When people are going through grief, they don't know what to do. They don't know enough about the whole process, and there isn't enough discussion about it. So people feel alone and scared. And what am I going to do? So that's why I do what I do.
Yeah. And I know you're the perfect person to do that too. Just in the conversations that we've had, I love how you listen and how you walk people through things and all of those wonderful things. So, yeah. So what inspired you to be part of the Unleashing book?
Well, I've been letting out little bits of my story for a while. And even when I first started exploring what it is I wanted to do with my life, I I took a free workshop to do a solo performance piece. And in that, I did a 15-minute piece about what it was like becoming a widow at the age of 24. I'd not shared any of that before, and had this one experience of performing it. And then just that was the sort of the thing that pushed me to tell more. And I knew I wanted to tell even more of my story, but I wasn't ready to do an entire book. And when you presented this opportunity, I said, oh, maybe I can do a chapter. So that's what gave me the courage that it wasn't going to be a book just about me, that there was going to be guidance from you, first of all, and all of the other stories being told.
That's a wonderful way to begin.
I love
Um, that's one of the things I really like about anthologies, is that it gives you a chance to test it out and see, okay, am I cool with sharing my story? Am I okay with writing? Can I meet deadlines? Like all those kind of things. So yeah, I think you hit it on the nose. That's a very good reason to be, joining an anthology. And of course, the sharing your story part. So can you tell us a little bit more about your story, about what you shared in the book?
Well, I go back to when I was 24 and became a widow
Mhm.
very unexpectedly, and had no idea what I was going to do. And actually going back to talk about that part, even though obviously it's been a long time since I was there were such visceral emotions that came up, even while I was writing it. And even now I'm getting teary just speaking, because those feelings don't go away, they get etched into your soul. But being able to talk about them was another way to release another layer
Mhm.
of my journey. And being able to explain how I got to where I am today, able to be a coach that helps other people through their journey, and why I'm the perfect person to be able to do that, because I've traveled that road. I understand how you're feeling. I understand what all of those emotions are. So just being able to talk about the long and winding road to get where I am today, because I was already over 50 by the time I became a coach. So it took over 25 years to become or begin to become who I am. Although I guess in a way I was becoming that entire time. And I think that's part of what I share in the book, that reflecting on everything that I had gone through, each step along the way, each challenge that I faced was another opportunity to shed, to grow, to become more, to just continue to develop into who I am today. We
Yeah.
never,
What was that?
we never stop.
Right, right. And I love when I was reading your story, that was something that was so interesting to me was, the change and grow and change and grow and change and grow. And you even mention at one point in the story, this sounds like it's the end. It sounds like it's the end of the story, but it's really the beginning of the next piece.
Mhm.
And with a story like this, you had this unexpected event which changed you then, but then you also grew from it. And then you reached another point where you changed. And I think it was really important to share stories like that because it lets other people see like it's a journey. It really is. It's never like, okay, we got to this point and we are right here and we are still right here. If you stay where you are at that point, like what's going on? How does that work? you know,
And I think that fear is something that holds a lot of people back. And I know that that was my case for sure, that I I didn't want to appear like there was anything wrong with me.
okay.
I would, even in the very beginning, just meeting a new guy when I started the dating process, once they found out I was a widow, they, it was like deer in the headlights and they went running.
Yeah.
They didn't want to have the responsibility of picking up where my true love ended.
Mhm.
That I was just looking for a replacement, immediately get married and settle down again, which wasn't the case at all. So
Yeah.
but just I think that anybody who's going through loss or grief of any kind, because our society doesn't talk about it enough, there's such a misunderstanding and there's not enough discussion about it. And that's one of the things that I'm working to do more of, to be able to speak and educate and let people know that it's a process and there's nothing wrong with you. And we need to talk about it. We
Yeah.
need to share our stories. And I think that's another big part why I decided to be involved in the book, because I know how important it is for people to see I'm not the only one. There's others out there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I think something else too is how you took that grief and used it to be able to help others. And I think a lot of times when we think about grief, we think of it as this like all consuming darkness. And really, you took that darkness and turned it into light.
Mhm. Well, it's a normal human thing. That's what we're supposed to do. When
Right.
somebody grieves, you're supposed to feel bad. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. You're supposed to feel your feelings. That's the way God created us all, to feel and be human. And shutting that down is what gets a lot of people stuck. And even the whole 5 stages are not really, oh, when do I get to that one where I'm feeling okay? So it,
Right.
it it's a whole misconception. And I'm always happy to speak on some of the myths and helping people understand what's really going on, because
Yeah.
too many people don't.
Yeah. I'm so glad that there are people like you who are able to, come back to it from this higher perspective and say, okay, this is what I've been through and I'm going to help you get through it too.
And
Yeah.
I think there's also something about sharing with others and being heard that gives people the opportunity to lighten the load.
Mhm.
Sometimes I get the question, well, isn't that really depressing to be doing what you do? And quite the contrary. I think that because I'm able to help people see the light, because I'm able to open up the possibility and see the light at the end of the tunnel, that and walk beside them as they go through the journey, wherever they are. It can be someone who experienced a loss 30 years ago or someone who experienced it 3 months ago. It doesn't matter. If you're stuck, you're stuck, and you need a little bit of support and guidance. That's what
Absolutely. I wanted to ask, kind of rewinding in your story back to, you worked with a woman, you mentioned this in your story, that you worked with a woman who had actually been through the same thing and how that impacted you. And I was wondering if you could share that a little bit.
when I was writing about it, you very aptly pointed out that that was a turning point, and I hadn't even realized it for myself. After I didn't know what to do next after my husband died, and my mother-in-law arranged for me to get a waitress job because I had experience as a waitress, and there was a new place opening within walking distance of my home, and I didn't want to drive. So that was a big thing. And I went down and I was hired before I knew it. And the woman that I worked with, the other waitress, was a career waitress. And she was the funniest, happiest. People followed her wherever she went. If she went to a new restaurant, all of her customers followed her because she was that kind of woman. She had just exuded life. And she took me under her wing. She had been widowed with two small children, and she raised them and put them through school, got a house. So she was able to work full time, find joy and happiness her entire life. She never got remarried, and she was the best thing that happened. She was my angel. And once I met her, I said, "Oh, there is hope." So if I can be that little bit of hope just through people reading this story, that I've done my job.
I love that part of the story. I love that she gave you hope. It's wonderful. So now that we're all crying, um, there's been a lot of that today. Um, yeah, but good tears,
Oh,
good
yes,
tears.
they're happy tears. They're good tears. They're tears are they're like giving your insides a shower, or like after it rains. You know how fresh and clean the air
Yeah,
is. That's exactly what it's like when you have a good cry.
absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask you because the challenge of the story is obvious. So I wanted to actually flip it around because I've been asking about challenges in writing. I'd
Mhm.
like to ask you about what you really enjoyed about writing your story.
Getting it out.
Mm.
Just getting it out of my system, because I know that there are things I haven't even said to my family about what I experienced, and it's probably going to be a big surprise for them. And um, my current husband, Jim, has been very supportive all through this. In fact, the reason we got married is because he was the first person I met who wanted to hear more about Bob, who wanted to hear more about what it was like being a widow. And he jokes, "Who's going to get you in heaven?" So Um, he has a sense of humor, but he understands that who I am partly is because of my experience in becoming a widow. And
Right.
so I guess just being able to share all of that and to let the world know that what I'm doing now is honoring Bob's memory. And anybody can do anything to honor a dead loved one or get over a grief of anything, you don't have to be stuck. So sharing hope, sharing possibility, and allowing people to see a little bit of themselves in my journey. So I guess just sharing that.
Yeah, that
That
is
was what
so
I really
cool.
enjoyed.
That's good. I'm so glad you enjoyed the writing experience too. And I think it's like that for a lot of people, just getting the story out and
Mhm.
helping
And
others.
I have to say that you helping me bridge from one place to the next where there's a jump of 20 years or 30 years. And how do I say that? Can you help me? So having your guidance was I didn't feel scared knowing that.
Well, thank you. I'm glad. Awesome. Well, we learned so much more about you and about your story today, and I really appreciate you sharing all of that. I was just saying earlier, one of the things that is so cool about doing interviews with an author after they've written their story is that I get more stories, and other things to share and all that fun stuff. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to do another quick plug for our book because we would love to hit #1 today, Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic. Make sure you hop on Amazon and get a copy of it. I will drop the link in the comments. It's 99 cents today only as part of the campaign. Thank you, Maryann, for joining me today. I really appreciate being able to share your story and talk more with you about it. And can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Well, you can go to my website, yourshelteringtree.com. I'm on Facebook, both Sheltering Tree and Maryann Roses Udel. And I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, Sheltering Tree. So thank you. I'll put
Awesome.
the links in.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know it's hard to remember all that stuff, write it down. Okay, well, thank you for joining us. If you've been watching the video and you have questions, make sure you drop them in the comments. We're happy to answer them. And this is our last interview today, but there will be a whole bunch more on tomorrow.